Well, this is a beauty sponge for the sweat. I wonder if that's a thing. Let's make it. All right, you can stay there. I don't know how people do this. How do you sit here and talk to yourself? Okay, I got it, I think. I don't even know sometimes why I want to make this video. I've been wanting to for so long. I think that I want to tell the story over and over and over and over again to people. And I feel like if I just tell it one time on here, then maybe I'll get over it. And because this would have been 7 years ago that this happened. And I feel like getting this off my chest will bring closure to me. If not, we tried. Oh, I wonder if everyone's got like a beauty sponge like while they're waiting. It's a little tap tap. Shit. Oh, guys, if you see this, just don't want, just, if it's pissing you off, just don't look at it or look at it. I don't really care. So basically I'm going to be telling my stories about my miscarriages and my journey to my son. I feel like when someone has a miscarriage or loses a baby, for a few weeks people grieve with you and it feels like you're supported and stuff, but eventually the world moves on and you're left with wounds and no closure. And I feel like this might help me. My story begins when I was 18. I was with my then partner and we wanted to have a baby. I know that sounds crazy, but I felt ready. I was very maternal, always have been. I've always loved and wanted to be a mum. It's all I wanted to be. And I wanted it with the person that I was with. I'm an O negative. I don't know if any of you know about this, but if you have a negative blood type and to say your partner has a positive, it can create antibodies in the pregnant woman that can basically attack the baby and destroy the pregnancy. And lo and behold, my partner was a positive blood type, so I was always a high risk with my pregnancies. I had also never been pregnant before this. These were my first pregnancies. I never had any past pregnancies, basically. Never had any scares or anything. This is my first experience with pregnancies and miscarriages and all that jazz. I will put a disclaimer in this. This is going to be very detailed. As you can see from the title, it's going to be talk about blood, medical stuff. Me personally, I am a pretty open person. I'm going to be talking very loosely with this kind of stuff. It's going to be very detailed. So if you can't handle that kind of stuff, it's probably not kind of the video that you should be watching. So got pregnant pretty much straight away. I don't think I'd even had a period, to be honest with you. I think that we had just started trying and then my period was late and I was pregnant. I got to 12 weeks with this pregnancy, or had a really, really normal pregnancy. Morning sickness started to die off around the 12-week mark and everything, like a really textbook pregnancy basically. No bleeding, nothing. Went in for my first scan and I'd had my ultrasound. I couldn't get an appointment until I was 14 weeks. So I was 14 weeks at this point and went in for my ultrasound and basically the baby had passed away at 8 weeks. And they could measure that my uterus had basically continued to grow to 14 weeks. So my body had not recognized the baby had passed away and continued to produce pregnancy hormones, which made my uterus grow. So basically they said to me that it would be too painful for me to eventually if I had not found out, that my body would have gone into a natural miscarriage and taken care of it itself basically. But because my uterus had continued to grow to 14 weeks, that I needed to have a curette, which was scheduled for the next morning, went fine, everything was all good. Looking back as well, with my first miscarriage, you are told if you're trying to have a baby, it's a very real possibility of a miscarriage. You get yourself prepared for it. So going in to the ultrasound, I was shocked. Look, don't get me wrong, I was shocked, but I felt like I was emotionally ready for that. Like if that was to happen, I was not anticipating it, but there was a possibility in the back of my mind that that's what we were walking into. After that, I was pretty keen to get pregnant again with it, and pretty quickly got pregnant again. This time, I remember I was pissed off, like, to be honest. Like, I remember going through all my apps and being able to, the first time getting to 14 weeks and this time having to start again and read through all the same weeks. Like, it was just like really just annoying basically. Got to 12 weeks, I was about to announce, and then this is where it goes bad. So just be prepared. I went to the toilet and I must have been just over 12 weeks. I might have even not hit 12 weeks. I was in between 11 and 12. Went to the toilet and basically there was just a little bit of blood in my undies. Nothing too crazy. We went straight to the emergency room, which is what you're told to do if you have any bleeding with pregnancies. And at this point they'd asked me, like, what's your pain level? Like, from 1 to 10, what's your pain level? And at the time, I'm like, a 3. Oh, it's a 3. Like, it's just not even cramping. I don't think I've even had period pains, like, up to this point. Like, I've never experienced them. So at this point I was having like I don't know, I felt something. Probably wasn't pain at this point. And I told him it was a 3 because obviously of my blood type. If you have a miscarriage, and this, I should have mentioned this, after my first miscarriage, if you are an O negative blood type, and then you need to be given an anti-D shot, which basically prevents any antibodies, or hopefully prevents any antibodies from being produced next in any future pregnancy. They'd given me my anti-D shot and told me to come back in the morning where they would do an ultrasound that would be followed off with a curette. We went home and I went to bed. Everything was fine. I don't think I was bleeding at this point. I think that I'd just gone to bed and I woke up around 3 a.m. and was bleeding and in pain, like waves of pain. I didn't really want to wake anyone at this point. I felt embarrassed. I think that because of my first miscarriage, that was a rare kind of miscarriage. They're called incomplete miscarriages. And I thought this was just normal, so I didn't want to wake anyone up and be a pussy, to be honest. And we were also we were living with my partner's boss at the time. So I didn't want to wake him up either. It was his house. I just felt embarrassed. So I toughed it out. Couldn't go back to sleep. Obviously the pain started getting increasingly worse and the bleeding. But again, I thought this was normal. And then it got to around maybe 6 a.m. and I was like, okay, this is too overwhelming for me. This is too much pain. We need to go to the hospital. So I woke up my partner at the time and we headed to the hospital. And at this point I started bleeding. Like, I think I bled in the car through my pants onto his seat, which I remember I'm still embarrassed about, like still embarrassed. And went into the room where I would have the ultrasound basically. And you can picture just a hallway with just a bunch of seats. And then there's a room at the end of the hallway that once you make it down to the line, you get the ultrasound. There was a bunch of heavily pregnant women on every seat. I think I'd sat down as well and bled through onto the seat. So I stood up and like held onto the back of the seat. And at this point I was in a lot of pain. And I will never forget them looking at me. Like, I will never forget the pity in their eyes. Yeah, like it was like, and not pity, just they knew that I was miscarrying. Like, and it was just, I remember being so jealous, just being like, why did you get to that state? Like, I don't even know, just really just selfish shit, do you know what I mean? And I was just in pain and just wailing, ooh, like holding onto the chair and swaying back and forth, bleeding at the same time. And then I felt a sensation in my stomach, a tight, hard, I still have never felt this to this day, so I can't really explain this, but my stomach went rock hard and I felt the urge that I need to go to the toilet. That I was like to my partner, get me to the toilet. So they jumped me in the line. The nurses put me into the room. At this point, I'm bleeding everywhere. So I'm trying to get my pants off and everything to get to the toilet because I feel like something's going to happen. Soon as I sit down on the toilet, I pass the sack. And this thing, like I remember looking down and just being like, what the fuck is that? Like, that's what I thought. It looked like a lung had fallen out of me. I was like, what the hell? Hit the emergency button. Nurses run in. My partner's run into the corner because there's blood-soaked clothes everywhere. The nurse grabs my knees, whips them apart, looks down, looks at me, and says, love, you've passed the sack. And I'm just like, what? Like, I don't even know. Like, my mind's just gone then. Like, I'm just gone then. And then at this point, I started bleeding, I would say, like, heavily. Even though I was bleeding heavily beforehand. At this point, the stream was fast, profusely bleeding. And the nurse put me on a bed and sat me down and put me on a drip because I started going pale. And I still look back because this is a bunch of errors that have gone on. This is one mistake that they made. So they sent me home. put me on a drip, look at me, by the way, and go, oh, love, you're as pale as the sheets behind you, and send me home. I didn't make it home. Let's just put it that way. So let's just fast forward. They give me a script and they say to me, you're naturally miscarrying. There's nothing we can do now. You've passed the sac. You've got to let your body do what it's got to do. It'll clear everything out. And we go through a chemist to get my script and a pack of nappy, I understand, so about a pack of adult diapers, because at this point pads were useless. Like, they were just useless. I was bleeding way too much. I was even the nappies were useless, but I needed something. So we got to the chemist, and warning guys, this might be a little bit too much, but as soon as I stood out of the car, I felt these things like fall out from like inside of my pants, like fall out the bottom of my pants, and there were huge blood clots. Like, they look like little kidneys or something, like little, I don't even know, like just, I felt them just fall down the bottom like of my legs and come out the bottom of my pants. And as I look down and look up, there's like a homeless man like standing there, this poor man. Oh my God. I couldn't even imagine like what you would think was going on with someone. How do you see like organs, basically? Like, it looked like organs like falling out the bottom of my pants, followed by like rushes of blood. And then I just looked at him, he's looking at me, and it was just like a moment. And my partner sat me down next to him, and I think at this moment I must have been in shock, because like I couldn't speak. Like, I was just like, and so was he. Like, the dude next to me is just looking at me, and we didn't know what to say. Like, what do you say to someone, obviously? My partner started to panic and didn't have time to wait for the script. So he's just given me the nappies, grabbed me, put me back in the car, and dropped me back off at home. And he was only around the corner at the chemist getting the prescription. So I'm at home alone, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I need to get this blood off me. Like, I need to get this blood off me. So I jump in the shower and wash myself, get back out, and not even joking, within it like a few seconds, I'm covered in blood. Like, it's going everywhere. There was blood on the doorknobs, like handprints on all the doorknobs of the house. This isn't my house, mind you. Like, it was humiliating. I'm the whole time trying to clean up blood while bleeding everywhere still. It was impossible. So I tried to stand in the shower, clean myself up, couldn't do it. It got to the point where like it was just ridiculous. So I just sat on the toilet. Like, I just sat on the toilet. The blood's got to go somewhere. It's going there. I called my mum, and I was speaking to her about it, and she's trying to urge me to go back to the hospital and saying that I'm bleeding too much. And I'm going, nah, mum, like, this is normal. Trust me, this is just a normal miscarriage. This is normal. She's gone, get yourself to the hospital. Like, this is not normal. It's not normal. And then I started to feel dizzy and weak. Like, instantly. It was so strange. And I was on the phone to my mum, and I remember just sort of slumping in the toilet and going, oh yeah, I feel dizzy. Like, oh yeah, like I felt weak and dizzy. And then this like gives me chills. And my mum, because like it was so strange, because I was so weak, I was so out of it, but I remember hearing this so loud and clearly. I remember her saying, Annalise, I'm calling an ambulance. You are having a bad miscarriage. Like, trying to get it through me. And I'm just like, oh. And at this point, I hear my partner pull up in the driveway. And I'm like, it's okay. I'm heading back. I'll meet you there. My partner and his boss run in the house and see like blood everywhere. There's blood like trails on the wall. Like, it's just, I've just ruined everything. Like, scooped me up from the toilet because I was too weak to move at this point. And I was naked as well, and put me in the back of the car and just covered me with a towel, because at this point, there's no point getting me dressed. I'm bleeding through those pants. I'm bleeding all over my partner's boss's car. Like, and it was just horrible. Like, and I remember going sort of like in and out of consciousness, not really consciousness, just more, I definitely didn't go unconscious, but I would go in and out of some sort of state where I would be like, feel like I'd get a wave of like energy and like help sort of thing. Like, and then it got to the point where I remember feeling so weak and just thinking, yeah, like I'm gonna die. Like, get me to, I remember thinking I was so weak that the only thing I could say was quick. I remember just looking at my partner and just being like, quick. And at this point, after that, I don't know if this was a panic attack, anxiety, what went on, but I felt like I couldn't breathe, and I felt like I was just too weak to take a breath, and I just felt like, you got to get me to the hospital, like now. And then we pull up at the hospital, they ran and grabbed a wheelchair, put me in a wheelchair and just chuck a towel over me, because at this point, remember, I'm just naked, just covered in blood. They wheel me through to this room, and basically put me on a hospital bed and like set me up on a drip and just start feeding me painkillers, like and did nothing. Like these painkillers did nothing. At this point as well, I'm in so much pain, like it was waves of pain, and as I would get a wave of pain, blood clots would come out of me. Like as it would happen, I'd get a really bad contraction pain, and then it would push out blood clots, and it was so painful, so painful. So they gave me morphine, Oxycontin, Panadine, Endone, everything you can think of, and it's doing nothing. I'm wide awake, screaming at them to put me to sleep, just begging them to put me to sleep, begging. And I don't know how long I was sitting on this bloody bed for. It felt like hours, could have been 20 minutes, but before they realized that before they did put me to sleep, but we'll get to that. They've given me all these drugs. They're trying to keep my pain management under control, not even thinking about the bleeding. They start telling me that the reason why I'm in so much pain is that my cervix is only half open and that they need to clear out the blood clots because they're being pushed. Basically, when I was contracting, they were being pushed through a small hole instead of just flowing out of me. So they, while I'm awake, had that like speculum, who knows, but one of those things that basically hold your little vagina open, and then had like a vacuum cleaner, and they started like vacuuming out like blood clots, and they told me I would feel like much better, and I did for like 20 minutes. I stopped getting like the contraction-y sort of like waves of pain. Slowly though, I kept bleeding, the blood clots kept coming again. I am like screaming at them to put me to sleep, and they just wouldn't. Like I remember that like this nurse would be standing there like holding a needle, like flicking the thing, and she'd be like, and I'd be like, oh, is that to put me to sleep? And she's like, no love, it's just more morphine. And I'd be like, bitch, like that is not doing anything to me. Like get me to sleep. I started threatening them and saying that I was going to snap my head on the wall and put me to myself to sleep if they didn't put me to sleep. It got that so bad. Eventually they start realizing, yeah, this girl's losing too much blood. We need to stop the bleeding. They wheel me to the operation room, where I remember them taking like a prick. I must have been checking my blood count, and basically like wheeling me off. And this beautiful angel of a man. And now I look back, I go, I don't know. Hold on a second, we need a little sweat check. Do a little sweat check, hey? This should definitely be a thing. So this angel of a man, like I've never trusted anyone like this. And now I look back, like this man's about to be like going down like there, you know what I mean? Like he's about to be like fixing shit up down there. And he's holding my hand, and I get the last wave of pain, and he's holding my hand, and I think I must have been like panicking, like because it fucking hurt. And he's sitting there going, it's okay, it's over. Like, Annalise, it's over. Like, it just calmed me. And I remember just seeing his face and just falling asleep and waking up and just being so fucking relieved. I remember waking up and like waiting for that pain to come. And when it wouldn't, I just cried. Like, I remember just being just so happy that the pain was gone. Like, I'd been begging them to put me to sleep for so long just to end it. Woke up, basically, the doctors had said to me, like, Annalise, we're really sorry. Like, we didn't realize you were losing as much blood as you did. Like, as you were. You're young, you should, basically, they explained to me that when you're young, you rejuvenate blood cells a lot quicker than like an older person would. So they didn't feel a need to give me a blood transfusion. And they made that decision while asleep to not give me a blood transfusion. Mistake number 2. Basically told me that I would feel shit for the next 6 months or so, that I would be rock bottom, that I would not feel great, I wouldn't have energy, that I would feel sick, basically, and they were not wrong. I'm still to this day not the same. Like, my veins shrink up, collapse, anything like that. It took a long time to get any sort of colour in my face. Blood loss is no joke. My journey to my motherhood is still like in the back of my mind, but at the same time, I just had this traumatic event that I would not put myself in the position for it to happen again. Like, I remember being like, look, I want to be a mum more than anything, but I cannot put myself in that position again where that could happen to me. Just like, I think that after having a baby, I think that was a lot less, it wasn't as bad because I had something at the end of it. The pain was not as bad during actually giving birth than it was with my second miscarriage. I just didn't feel like I could put myself in that position again. I didn't for 6 or 7 months. I think I was even trying a couple months early, but my body, I was not healthy enough to get pregnant. And then eventually got pregnant for the third time, so this is my third pregnancy, where I again have to start again. And I think this is where it comes into play, where I think that I grieved the pregnancies more than the life itself. I think because of the mind torture that the pregnancies itself caused, like, and the loss of the pregnancy and the having to start again, and of all of it, I think was fucked me up. Anyway, fast forward to my third pregnancy. I got to around 6 weeks. By the way, like, note that either of my miscarriages, I didn't have any antibodies at all present in my body for either pregnancy. There was not any indication that was why. They have no idea still why any of that happened. I have no idea. They said my blood type is not a factor at all. The miscarriages are mysteries half the time. We don't know. So I get to 6 weeks. They book a early scan just to make sure everything's okay and to ease my anxiety, obviously. And I get to the bottom step of the ultrasound place, like you have to go downstairs. And as I step off the last step, I feel pain, like in my bum. Like, sorry, but that's where the pain was. Like, it was in my bum. Like, felt like a knife trying to come out my bum. Like, sorry, like, that's just what it was. I'm in the ultrasound. I feel so sorry for this woman. I've had such a shitty attitude. She's going, oh, how's your pregnancy going? I'm like, oh, it's great. I think I'm miscarrying right now. Oh, it's great. I don't think I can have babies. That's great. Like, and she had to sit there and be so uncomfortable for it. So kudos to her. Sorry about that, guys. My camera cut out. So I walk out of the ultrasound room, anxious as all hell. And by the way, sorry if this is like not centered or whatever, I'm new to this. I walk out of there, I get on the phone to my mum, and no joke, as soon as she answers, I feel a gush of blood. I'm like, I'm miscarrying again, it's happening, like just freaking out. And I tell her I'm gonna meet her at the hospital. So I meet her and my then partner at the hospital. And at this point, they're pretty sure that I'm miscarrying, so they give me my routine anti-D injection, which I don't know has any role in what happens next, but I then go home. They make me an appointment for the morning, just like my second miscarriage, where I'm to have an ultrasound and then a curette. I am pissed off. Like, I am at home sitting there this night. I sat there and it tested me. Like, I'm telling you, it tested me. Like, I am a spiritual person. I believe in God. I always have. I've recently dove into this whole spiritual world. I do tarot, I do all that stuff. I've come a long way with my spirituality, and this is why. I think that everyone wants to believe that everything happens for a reason, and it's so easy to dismiss that and with all the shit things that goes on in the world. But when you're put into a place where your faith is tested and where you feel like there's no reason for this to be happening, I felt, honestly, I was like, you bastard. I was like, I told you that if you do this to me again, that I might have understood the first time. Fair enough. That's life. Do you mean you miscarry? Second time, after that, I struggled with that, but I still kept my faith. That night, after I felt like I'd gone through a third miscarriage, I remember thinking, fuck you. Like, no way. Like, there's no reason why, like, what can I personally grow from this? What positive could come from this? Just give me, like, a baby. Just, like, give me a baby. Like, it's all I want, and I will do whatever you want. I felt like I was doing nothing wrong, and I was just being punished. And the next morning, I went for my ultrasound, and me and my then partner were waiting. They basically do a routine ultrasound just over the top to basically see the positioning of the uterus so that they can get ready for the surgery. Right there on the screen, while she was scanning me, I see a heartbeat. And I'm the first one to say something. And I say it, and I say, is that a fucking heartbeat? I literally said, is that a fucking heartbeat? And she looked at me and looked at it and was like, I think it is. And rushed me, cancelled the surgery, rushed me into a room where they could do an internal ultrasound, because at this point I'm only 6 weeks. It was a bloody miracle they could see the heartbeat over the top with a normal ultrasound. They give me an internal ultrasound and see that the baby is alive. There's a strong heartbeat, but can see a bleed basically next to the baby sack, and they couldn't give me an answer whether it was a twin that I'd miscarried or whether I had a bleed. They thought that I would continue to bleed or my uterus would close back up, and it's called a threatened miscarriage, where either you go on to have a complete miscarriage or your uterus completely closes back up and you go on to have a completely normal pregnancy, sometimes usually with a little bit more bleeding. Fortunately for me, I went on to have a healthy pregnancy. I gave birth to a healthy baby boy. He was 6 weeks early, but that was anticipated. I was not going to be lasting that long. No way that my body was going to be going full term, that's for sure. He was healthy. He was in hospital for 17 days while he obviously learned how to feed on his own and everything like that. But other than that, he is completely perfect. He is my miracle baby, I consider. And now looking back, as I said about things happening for a reason, I think that for sure after this happening, like for me, like if people ask me if I can regret something with like I can't. There's no way that I can go back to any point in my life and try to take anything back because that means that there's a possibility that my son wouldn't be here. Like there's no way. For me, that gives me so much peace. If I can't see why something's happening and I can't understand why it's happening, for me, it's okay. As long as I have faith that one day I will understand, even if it's the day before I die, even if it's in my afterlife. If I come to a point where I like realize why this happens, then that's okay. Like I'm fine with that. I'm completely fine with that. That's basically what I use for my everyday life now. Whenever something bad happens, no matter what, if I don't know why it's happening, I just have faith that one day I will. Don't think I mentioned, I ended up finding out I lost 4 units during my second miscarriage and during my hemorrhage while I was pregnant with my son, because obviously due to them not giving me blood transfusion, I didn't have any iron or anything like that in my body, so I had to have iron infusions and things like that to make sure that he was healthy. Yeah, that's my story to motherhood. I did do this for my own closure, but it makes me feel so much better, like even more to know that this could help someone else. Sorry if it was a bit boring, or sorry if it was a little bit gory, but that's what it's like on this channel, so yeah. But without further ado, let me introduce you to my son. Look how messy you look. Okay, this is my messy boy, Rome. Say hi.
Hi.
Say hi, YouTube.
Hi, YouTube.
So this is Rome. He's the one that I have my tattoo with. Can you say, how old are you, Rome? How old are you? Tell them how old you are.
I'm 5.
He's 5. So all this stuff happened a very long time ago, but you're my miracle baby, aren't you? You need a bath. All right, well, we're gonna jump in the shower because this boy's very dirty, but if you would like to hear more from me or see, Rome's a little bit on this channel, acting a little bit naughty, aren't you?
Yes, but I'm not anymore.
He's not anymore. We'll see about that. So if you could like, comment and subscribe, that'd help me out a lot. Can you say comment and subscribe?
Comment and subscribe.
Bye. Say bye.
Bye.
Oh, you got a mark on your lip. Here. Ha ha! There you go. Thank you.